there's not been a small show on this tour.
No.
Every single show's been big, but some are bigger than others. And it's like every tour always has one or two that you're like, oh, this is the big one. It's the big one.
Exactly. Yeah.
You want to recognize the importance of certain shows, but making too big of a deal of it, I think, can be negative.
You thought, you know, on my path in the future, at some point, I'm sure I'll just jam a Linkin Park song with Mike Shinoda. That would be a very normal thing.
That one was definitely very out of the blue and out.
Could you enjoy that, or were you then in your head going like, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up?
You know what, I actually did enjoy that. Yeah,
Right.
that was really cool, and I think it was because we were.
For the fans around the world who are wondering what's coming up next, I presume you must be trying to write some music at the moment. Is there anything you can share about what's coming up for yourselves in that realm?
I mean, we don't want to raise the alarm bells or anything too early, but like.
When I was first introduced to this band about 7 years ago, I was in awe of how densely packed their songs were from start to finish, with technical challenging moments for the drums and the guitars, and the ferocious vocals throughout as well. And yet, there's this human, emotional, connective aspect to all of their songs that really drew me in. And they've been going from strength to strength since then, going from 500 capacity venues when I first saw them to playing main stage at Download Festival or Wembley Arena. And this gig that I got the chance to meet them at was no exception. It was Alexandra Palace in London, a 10,000 person venue. And I had the opportunity to chat to vocalist Jamie and drummer Dan about the band and where they are right now in their career. So here is that conversation now.
I'm here delighted to talk to Jamie on vocals and Dan from drums from Polaris. First of all, you're playing an arena tour at the moment. I know you've done all kinds of gigs in the past. Do you prepare differently for a show of this size to what you would do, for example, earlier in the year when you were playing what kind of theater shows for your headliners?
I mean, yes and no. Like I feel in the earlier days for us, like preparing for a show as big as this was always seemingly like way bigger pressure, way bigger kind of show to put on. But like as I feel like we've gone on touring and stuff with that, it becomes like you don't want to like wig yourself out like, oh well, this one's more important than the next, because every show is as important as the next. It's you kind of, I feel, at least I kind of approach it with that mentality of it's just another show. It's just the same as in rehearsal. Just, you know, if whether there's 1,000 people or 10,000 people, or you're playing Download in front of God knows how many tens of thousands of people, it's like it's the same as in the rehearsal studio. You just do the same thing there, and it's going to be a good show. But there is that little mental, I think, challenge that you have of like preparing for something of this scale. Like it's no joke that it is a big show. Like,
any tour of this scale always has like a couple. Like, I mean, every single. There's not been a small show on this tour. No. Every single show's been big, but some are bigger than others. And it's like every tour always has one or two that you're like, oh, this is the big one. It's the big one.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like to the point now, it's become like a joke where when we are playing, like if we're playing a show that's way smaller, I'll just walk around all day going like, boys, this is the big one.
Yeah.
Like we're in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
Didn't even have a bathroom, didn't have a green room. We're walking around, all right, boys, big show tonight. But no, it
was actually a really sick show.
That was a sick show. But yeah, sometimes I think like there will always be a couple of shows like that, but I think over time they become a little bit less daunting and you stop putting as much pressure on them and you just kind of look at them as another night on the tour.
Sure.
I think sometimes overemphasizing in your head the fact that this one has to be the better one. This is the one where I need to give the performance of the tour. You ruin.
That's when you fuck it up too.
Yeah. And I don't even just mean you give yourself a higher chance of fucking it up, or like sometimes even if you
run yourself in that moment,
even if you don't fuck it up, you spend the whole set so focused on like. And it might make you deliver a really technically great performance, but it's sometimes it's hard to walk off from those shows and be like, I almost don't remember any of that because I was so focused.
Yeah.
And like, you want to be a little bit in the moment as well. So taking the pressure off and being like, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to rip it, be confident, but it's not the be all end all of my year. Yeah. It's not the one night of the tour that matters more than others. I think there's like a healthy balance where you want to recognize the importance of certain shows and give them that, you know, make sure you're absolutely in the best condition you can be for those ones, but making too big of a deal of it, I think, can be negative. In terms of like preparing for it, what you're asking though is like, I mean, I guess, are you talking like preparing directly before the show, like warming up, or are you talking like, are you thinking the logistics and...
Less the logistics, more for the performance element itself. Because, for example, you're going to have the people at the front who are going to wild in front of you, but you're also playing to someone who's 50 meters away. And maybe in certain venues, there isn't an extra screen to show like your facial expressions, for example. How do you make sure that you're pulling them in as well? Do you have techniques for that?
I mean, it's the difference between, I guess, playing a show and putting on a show. Like when you're when you're performing a show and it's like, you know, a couple of 100 cap room, really tight stage, like you're not really putting on a show because you don't have that space, you don't have that production, this, that, whatever. Like, but on a stage like this, you're not only addressing just a couple of people in front of you, you're addressing the whole room of however many people are there. Like, and that's always been a bit of a, not so much of a struggle, but something to adjust to over the years. Like, you know, when you go from like a club show to a bigger room, like an arena or a theater or something like that, when you've got people upstairs and downstairs, like you're playing to almost like the ether. Like you're addressing whatever the void is here instead of just looking directly at people who are like a couple of meters away from you. Like,
it's something you kind of learn over time, don't you? It's like, I feel like the first few times we played some really big rooms, we came off and we were all like, man, I don't even feel like I even like played to half of those people.
It's in a dark room.
You know, and as time goes on and you get more confidence and you start to figure out how to actually engage with the people. I mean, obviously for me, up back on the drums, I have the least worry about that. It's like,
sure,
what am I going to do? Hit my drums harder?
Yeah, the mics are going to take care of it.
But at the same time, even just trying to make sure that if I'm like, you know, I always try to connect with the people in the front row because they're all I can see. So if I can just like vibe with them and just like catch them fucking looking at me or catch a smile and smile back at them and like feel like I'm helping rev them up for a big moment or something, that's cool. But like even in the larger rooms, like even just making sure that I just take the time to take in the room and just stand up and have a peek around and like
give it a little show that it is and that like just
Sometimes I try to even just remind myself just to like wave to the people up the top and back so they know that you care that they're there, because it's like I might not be able to see you,
bought tickets too,
but I really care that you're here. You know what I mean? It's I mean you've come a long way with how you play to those big crowds as well. Like it's just something that you just pick up a little bit more every time you do it, don't you?
Whatever you're doing is working, because I've seen you play. I've seen you play the Boston Music Room years and years ago in London. It's like a few hundred people. Yeah. That was amazing. But then equally, Download Festival, the main stage there. You walked out like it was just another gig, and you had that whole.
I was terrified.
That horseshoe thing that Metallica had. You just went, "That's mine."
Sick.
Straight out.
Yeah, I remember being backstage and we saw the donut setup, and I was like, "We don't have a wireless mic, boys."
Oh no!
Like, I can't not. Like I run around so much. I was like, "Can we try and sort something out with like one of the other bands?" And RTM got us a wireless mic. That's right. I forgot about that. We were just skipping around, but like it was so cool. But it was just such a. I mean, even that show, like we were, it was probably one of the first times in a long time that I genuinely like got kind of in my head about the show. Like we're saying, like, you know, like, oh, this is a big one kind of thing. Like,
I'll let that one get to me.
I had to really like just take a bit of time to just try to bring myself down and like, no, come on, like it's doing the same thing that you do every other day. Like, you know, just like yesterday's show went down without hitch. Why won't today? Like, you know, just because there's this big old hill with however many fucking people there was. I think it was like 100,000 plus. Like, we didn't play to that many people, but like
that's how big
it always looks like just huge. People.
I mean, like I always find it's funny, especially when you play a bigger show. Like I tend to kind of throughout a show keep coming back to certain people that I can see that are like, you know, vibing with or like screaming their heart out. See, like I want to give them a bit more time because they're like singing every lyric at you. And then you almost forget like there's another person behind it and then there's one person there and then there's there. So when you're playing to a show like this, I kind of try not to get caught up too much on like the same person and to keep it. Because it's not just this one person, there's another 5,000 people out there.
But when you find yourself losing your vibe or getting a stuck in your head, it's like, I'm going to go find that person who's going to recharge me a little bit. That person there makes me feel really assured. There's someone in the front row who knows every word and is singing like...
They didn't know I dropped a snare. They had no idea. They're fine, but they don't know at all.
They have no idea. Really trip up over there.
There's those people you're like, thank God you're my lifeline right now. Like you are giving me all the positivity that my brain is like messing with right now. There's a festival is a whole other game as well. Like you're talking basically no sound check most of the time. Even when you're line checking in front of a bunch of people. It's really like weird and daunting and stuff. And like you're playing usually at a time of day where you would never normally play. Like for us, Download, we played at midday.
Yeah.
And that was like, I think that was after going from...
The night before, I think we played at like 8:30 at Rock, because the night before was Rock for People, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think we played at like 8:30 or 9:30 and we started packing up while Slipknot are playing, and then we go pull into Download and you're loading in at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and freaking Metallica's finishing checking, and it was crazy. And there's so many different variables that come into play with like a festival. Like so many things can go wrong. Like it's like especially with like in-ears and stuff like RF signal and shit, is always a bit of a pain on a festival day.
Just how you're feeling, where your head's at that day. Like
it's not the normal routine of.
It's all disrupted, and like I even felt like I think on that show I was so nervous, like I like over warmed up. And then to the point where it was detrimental, and then I was on stage and I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, my everything's kind of like tensing up because I've like overexerted. Something, those shows can throw spanners in the works all the time. But I mean, in terms of how we prepare to go on stage, though, I'd say it's that final hour or two before the show is pretty much the same. Or at least you want it to be the same no matter where you are. Like we'll have our little rituals, our little routines. For me, it's like, okay, as soon as the band before us goes on, I'm going to watch one song and then I'm in warm up mode. Nice. And it's just like have a shower, stretch, do like whatever I want to do, just do some like breathing exercise.
Prepare the body for like muscle memory into the stage and go from there.
Yeah, just a lot of stretching mostly. And then it's all systems go.
Nice. Well, it's working for you whenever you're doing your live performances are great.
Thank you.
You've toured with a lot of amazing international artists. Is there any particular moment or a couple that have been the most surreal that you think, I can't believe that actually happened on any of your tours, other than playing main stage download and having the horse show?
That was definitely a pivotal moment for us to download.
That one was walking for
watching Metallica freaking play. I'm like, we played on that stage a couple of hours ago. That's fucked.
For me, I think the moment it wasn't even just watching Metallica. It was arriving there in the morning and then just the reality setting in, walking in and seeing that big yellow Tama drum kit and going that straight away that it's Lars's. Like it's so recognizable. It's so him. I walk in and I'm like,
can I sound check this for Lars?
But just walking in and seeing that, and I'm standing right behind it, and just being able to walk around and take photos of Lars's kit and stuff, and be like, "Wow, we're about to play right here." And then the biggest metal band that's ever existed is going to do it a few hours later. Like that's such a bizarre feeling.
I remember after we'd loaded, and I remember walking up that hill all the way to where the Ferris wheel is at the very, very top, and then looking back. I didn't look back the whole walk up until I got to the top, and I looked back and I went, holy, like this is big. We're about to do this. Like it's like a good almost, it looks like a solid kilometer. Like it's not, but it looks that far away. It is just, the scale of that show was it's ingrained in my memory of just what a fantastic day. Like we played it at midday, and then we were done for the whole day. So we just chilled. We did a couple of interviews and just walked around and just enjoyed the festival for what it was. It was fantastic. It's terrific.
The big fests always in those, come on that list of
it's special, man.
Big crazy moments like.
We're playing festivals that we've seen all of our favorite bands online on YouTube, all their live videos, Bullet for My Valentine and Bring Me the Horizon at Rock Am Ring, and then so and so at Grass Pop Metal Meeting. It's to play on these stages where you've seen so many of your idols play is a very surreal feeling, but also really cool. It's like this is our time. This is us now doing that. That's sick.
It's very strange to be there and to be like, but when I was 12, I was watching just endless Rock Am Ring videos and Grass Pop videos and Download. Like those were some of the festivals where back then they used to film all of them. I feel like that's a real shame that these days
stopped last couple of years.
they stopped doing that. But back then you used to be able to get multicam mixed sets from all the big festivals, and it was sick.
A lot of festivals are live streaming it now though.
Yeah,
they'll be I think they pay for
like an online ticket or something.
Yeah, essentially, and you can see a lot of sets live streamed from the fest, which I think is a really cool thing for people that can't go. You can still somewhat be there, but I do miss the live sets being posted a lot from these festivals back in the day, for sure.
Yeah, just being able to be part of that environment and part of this culture that we get to enjoy every day is such a privilege, honestly. It's just to be wow, we dreamed of this since we were kids, and now these people are kind of our peers. It's it's a very
well learned. It's not like you're a brand new band, you've just been thrown into this. It's been years of development over time. So you're there on your own.
It's all been a very gradual, steady growth. It wasn't something that just happened quickly.
Yeah. I can imagine when you started the band, you thought, on my path in the future, at some point, I'm sure I'll just jam a Linkin Park song with Mike Shinoda. That would be a very normal thing.
That one was definitely very out of the blue and
Could you enjoy that, or were you then in your head going don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up?
I actually did enjoy that. Yeah, that was really cool, and I think it was because we were Mike is such a warm and humble and welcoming person, and just really he was just so fantastic to meet, and he came into the room and like spoke to everyone like he was a fan of them, which he was. Like that was the cool thing. He'd really handpicked the people he wanted to jam, and I think the strangest moment of that was him coming up to me and going, I was like, dude, Mike, so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me here. And he was like, bro, I just listened to your whole album on the flight here.
Shit.
He was like, I heard you guys are going to get a #1 this week. And I was like,
I was just like, how am I in your universe?
Yeah, I was like speechless, and it was just such a wild thing to hear come out of Mike Shinoda's mouth. I'm like, you listen to our record here, and you're talking to people in the industry about our band. That was absolutely nuts. But I think meeting him was so important and like meant a lot as well, because I went, okay, cool. That's in 10, 20 years, like that's the type of person I want to be when I'm meeting young musicians and stuff like that. Like that's the vibe I want to give people. Like he was truly one of those people that you're like, okay, that's about as good of a dude as like somebody at that level can be. Like it's just the whole thing kind of just came about so unexpectedly, and then a couple of days later it was like, boom, you're doing this. And
did you just get like an email or something, or how did that even?
Funnily enough, I got somebody had DM'd me on Instagram. They didn't even send an email. I don't know why there was no email sent, but it was someone from Warner DM'd me. I didn't see it because Instagram filters your message, and then they had spoken to somebody else who knew me and was like, hey, tell Dan to check the bottom of his inbox. So I was like, and it was like 2 a.m. and I'd just gotten back from a gig watching some friends, and I'm in bed about to fall asleep, and I see this check the deep reaches of your inbox thing. And I went into it, and it was like, hey, we'd like to invite you to be a part of this project with Mike Shinoda. And it's 2 a.m. and suddenly I'm very awake. like boom.
If someone hadn't told you to look, you're probably like, that's phishing. That's not a real...
No, yeah, I don't know if I would have believed it.
Yeah, right, whatever, ignore.
Yeah, sure, someone wants to send you $100,000 and a prince from the other side of the world or something.
It's urgent, you accept this now.
Yeah, please.
So like it was like the week of album coming out and the Fatalism tour back home. So we were rehearsing and like getting everything. Like I think you had to hold your kit for an extra night so that you could play to do this instead of it going off in the gear truck to start the tour or something.
It just worked out really. I think I held onto my snare and my pedals. Yeah,
that's
like what I needed, and the cymbals. But the whole it was literally.
It was like, can I make this work? Like
the timing shouldn't have worked, but it did. It was just, it was literally perfect timing. The day they wanted to do it happened to be the one day where we had we had 3 days of rehearsals and then a day off and then the start of the tour. And it was that day that they wanted to do it. And I was like, brilliant. All right. So
stars aligned.
But I think that one was comfortable as well, because the people I was around were all like other like young musicians from Sydney and Melbourne and stuff like that. And a couple of them I was already friends with. And so it was just like we were all like, hey, are we all totally like shitting our pants right now? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, don't tell Mike.
Yeah, everyone kind of like bonded.
We're professional
Bonded very comfortably and quickly, and we did a lot of takes. Actually, we didn't do that many takes. We did enough takes for everyone to feel comfortable and stuff. It's still like, I went back and watched it again recently, and I was like, still cool. I still get messages from high school friends and stuff, because I think the clip's kind of gone. The clip will kind of resurface on Instagram every now and then, and especially now that Linkin Park is
reborn,
like doing their thing again. So like a lot of Linkin Park clips are spinning around on Instagram again, and every couple of months, like I'll get a message from a friend. Is that you in that Mike Shinoda video? Like, yep.
Sick.
Yeah, it's a nice one to claim.
Back to Polaris themselves. Fatalism album seemed to have done very well, strength to strength as per usual. For the fans around the world who are wondering what's coming up next, I presume you must be trying to write some new music at the moment. Is there anything you can share about what's coming up for yourselves in that realm?
I mean, we don't want to raise the alarm bells or anything too early, but like, we're slowly starting, right? Like it's nothing's going to be coming out anything too soon. So,
sure.
But we're working on new material. I think we're just at a good point where we're comfortably actively working on some new music and trying out some new things and that, and seeing what may come.
Ideas are happening in the way they usually do. It's like I think it's taken us a little bit longer to get started this time, but I think it's circumstantially that's just how it was always going to be.
Yeah. Sure.
But we kind of told ourselves like we're not gonna, put the thumb screws on to like get into hardcore writing mode when we're home from tours too much like over the last 12 months, because we were like, you know what, we were just trying to make sure we were all, happy and healthy and moving forward and like feeling comfortable that no one's coming home from tour and feeling like, oh God, we have to get in the room tomorrow and start work. It's like at this stage, I think the last year we've all just been like, all right, let's just make sure we're taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other. The main priority is like, after going through something like losing Ryan, it's like all that really matters is that
We got each other.
that we're here and that we are taking care of each other and that we make sure that this can be a happy and healthy place for us all. Because like after you go through something like that, you don't want to be miserable out here. You don't want to be miserable in the studio. It's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
You want to find a way to do your best work. And it feels like it's consistent with, I think you said this in an interview before, that you tend not to kind of rush into writing anyway. You kind of write some things, then whatever feels natural, then go, oh, let's explore that thread.
Yeah. So I think there's quite a lot of demos floating around, some stuff from the old record, like from the previous record that didn't make it, or that when I say didn't make it, it's not necessarily stuff that wasn't good enough. It's just like we couldn't find the final version of the song.
Sure,
you know, and there are some of our best songs on the previous records are songs that were from a couple of years before where we
just they're like, okay, we couldn't settle on it, so let's just leave it for a little bit and we'll come back to it and we'll finish it when clearly the time is right for the song to be finished.
It's amazing how often that happens. I was chatting to Sean from Make Them Suffer a couple of days ago, and he's saying the same kind of thing. They've got demos that eventually like, that riff, we can plug that in here.
Yeah.
But the other thing is as well, if you think a song is like 90% to 95%, it's almost as good as it's going to get, then sure, you're going to push ahead with it. But sometimes you're looking at an idea and going, okay, I know that this idea is worth something really special, but I can't seem to construct the song around it I want. You know, rather than forcing yourself to finish a song and putting it out there and being like, oh, that was a great idea that ended up in a kind of a not fully realized song. And like, we'd rather hold on to it and make sure that, you know, maybe a year down the line, something's going to come to you and go, that's how we use that, you know? Some of our best tracks were half-finished tracks from previous ones that finally someone gone, what if we put a mad bridge here and a breakdown? Who would have thought?
Exactly.
That's metalcore.
Sometimes as well. Sometimes it could just be that, you know, there was this one song where we got stuck on writing a breakdown or stuck on writing a bridge, and you're throwing ideas at the wall forever, and you just get to the point where it's all starting to sound the same. I can't do it anymore. You put it on the shelf, you come back a year later, and something new is going to come out of your hands when you pick up the instrument. That's kind of the nice thing.
Makes all the sense in the world.
I think we know the direction that we want to go with the next record in terms of like what we want to talk about, and somewhat like how it's, you know, what the sound is going to be, how the sound's going to evolve from where it is, which is again, I think just going to be the natural direction it's been evolving.
But then as you start doing that, it may evolve away from that. Like naturally, it's kind of, you never know.
I mean, I guess, you know, what we see as the natural direction that we evolve is not necessarily what everyone would see, but like we know where it's going. We know what's us and what isn't. You know, we know what's kind of like in what's future us. And what's like, no, I just don't know if that's going to be in our wheelhouse. So
well, I'm excited for whatever it ends up being. I know we've got other things to do today with this massive gig with Beartooth. To round off, other than roasting a marshmallow from Caleb's flamethrower, of course, what have been like maybe one or two things you've learned from this tour or from watching that band or from Caleb that you're like, that's something I'd love to try and plug into our own world?
A lot.
I mean, there's a lot from down like to the nitty gritty, like the crew, the production, the logistics side of things, all the way through to the show that they're putting on. There's a lot to take away from this, a lot to learn from this. It's the same as when we did the Architects tour with Beartooth in 2019. I feel like we're seeing this tour the way that we saw that tour as well, just seeing how a, you know, big crew all comes together, how all the pieces work perfectly all day long, and the show just gets executed in that kind of fashion. But yeah, like the show that Beartooth are putting on is one of the best rock shows I've ever seen in my fucking life. It is phenomenal. Like I mean,
it's a bunch of fun. It's just so it's really
professional. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's fucking a celebration of joy and just music. It's really being alive and just living in the moment. And it is like, as you'll see tonight, it is. I like, there's so many points where I'm just like, I get goosebumps and I feel good and I get emotional because I'm like, look at this, look at
what music can do.
Yes, like it's fantastic, it's amazing. Oh, I'm so happy to be a part of this. But like, but yeah, I feel like as to answer you, like as touring musicians, I feel like you're always looking at what other bands are doing and be like, okay, that's interesting. How can we incorporate something like that in our way? Not like, you know, we don't want to direct rip off like, you know, certain things that Beartooth are doing by any means, but it's you definitely look and go, okay, we need to do something like that, but in what
For
would that
Polaris.
look like for Polaris?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I hadn't thought of that.
You're always looking at, okay, what's that band doing? What's this band doing? Okay, interesting. What can we do to
You can't exist
elevate
our
our show?
of
Like,
course.
So like,
Be
you have to pay
influenced
attention.
and inspired by things. That makes sense.
Yeah, and there, I mean, it's very polished. I think the flow is really cool.
Extremely
I think I love it's really colorful. The visuals are terrific.
Nice.
I think it's the thing I said after the first two shows. I came off and I said to Caleb, I was like, dude, I don't think I've actually really ever seen like a show that, you know, whether you're going to call it a metalcore show or a rock show or whatever, but like a show kind of from the heavy world that just felt as fucking joyful as that.
Yeah.
Like it truly, the whole show just feels like this real, and it makes total sense with the direction they've gone with the new album and what he's leaning into lyrically and stuff, which I think is awesome. I think it's really great to be able to have heavy songs, but not have it all be doom and gloom.
True.
Like that's. I'd like to hope that we've done a little bit of that
You
here
got
and there, but
moments,
we're pretty dark. Like
Yeah.
we're pretty dark in our content, but I think it's cool to think about like, okay, there is room to do a bit of both and to kind of have all that light and shade. And the fact is, like, when you're watching that show, there's some heavy songs, there's some angry songs in there and stuff. Like they're playing Body Bag and shit.
Yeah.
Like, was it Body Bag?
Yeah, Body Bag's
Playing Body Bag. Yeah. And like some of these real dark songs from the older stuff, but it all still feels really
all
comfortable,
cohesive in it,
part of the same set, and it's still. Some of the music's angry, but you're watching it and you just can't help but just want to celebrate. Like the show just put a smile on my face the whole show. I was literally just like grinning the whole time when I watched that show. I think it was the Cologne one particularly. I was just standing there up on that balcony, just going, "Man, this is a blessing to be here." Like, kind of reminds you why you got into this stuff in the first place.
100%. And
I can't wait to crowd surf tonight.
Yeah, is that the plan?
I'm crowd surfing the Body Bag. I'm climbing on top of people.
I'll try and
Send me
capture
down the
that
front.
somehow.
I think it's definitely told us as well, like, you know, like what a great, like a really good operation looks like. Well, we've been fortunate to tour with some other really great bands with big crews as well. And we learn a lot every time. And on this crew they're terrific. Like, nobody ever really seems. I'm sure they have their stresses and I'm sure they have their hard days, but everyone has seemed really positive and the vibe has just been like, let's go, let's fucking go. Everyone's relaxed and happy to be here. And I go, wow, okay, you can create a really great environment for a whole tour party if everyone's like that.
It's a well-oiled machine.
And it feeds into the way what you realize is that like the crew that a headline band brings and the vibe that creates, it trickles down to everything in the tour.
Yeah,
like everyone on the tour is in a better mood if the overall mood of the tour is better. It's just sick. So.
Well, I'm looking forward to what you described as joyful as a show, but also on behalf of the people who enjoy Polaris, we also experience the heaviness of that and find it to be joyful as well. So
we're having a good time.
Oh yeah, we're having a fantastic
we're
time.
looking forward to your set today, especially. Thank you very much for your time. Massively appreciate it. And look forward to whatever it is you do in future, whenever that is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, as you saw there, Jamie and Dan from Polaris were totally wonderful to talk to, and I would have happily talked for hours more, but when you're in the venue of the night of a gig, you don't have as much time, and I needed to make sure the tour manager was happy that I finished on time. So hopefully I'll have them back on the podcast for a lengthier talk, perhaps, maybe about their next records in future. We'll see. I'll make sure to add some links in the description to their socials so you can keep up to date with what they're doing in future. If you enjoyed this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel to get more of these in your future. And there's a link in the description to my Discord server where you can come chat to me about Polaris or other fucking great rock metal bands. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon.